RugbyRenegade.com, the #1 online strength and conditioning program for rugby. Are you ready to get bigger, stronger, fitter, and faster and dominate your opposition? Welcome to the Rugby Renegade Podcast, where we build machines.
Hello and welcome to the Rugby Renegade Podcast. Today's episode is sponsored by Pro Athlete Supplementation. Check them out at pas-nutrition.co.uk for all your supplementation needs. And don't forget that subscribers to the Rugby Renegade program get a 40% discount on retail prices. Yes, we are back with episode 42 of the Rugby Renegade Podcast. My name's Jamie Bain and today I interview strength and conditioning coach legend Dan John. You know, the word kind of guru gets battered around a lot and he'd probably hate me to use it, but he is, you know, one of those proper gurus. He explains everything so well, simplifies everything, and he's been around so long that he's seen it and done it all himself. So this should be a really interesting podcast to listen to. Give it a good listen and let us know what you think. Hi Dan, welcome to the Rugby Renegade Podcast. Great to have you on. Why don't we start by you just telling us a little bit about your background, how you got into strength and conditioning, and some of the teams and sports and athletes you've worked with.
Well, I got into strength and conditioning probably before most of your people were born. I started lifting weights in 1965, and I kind of fell in love with lifting weights right away. It was just like one of those things. It's still to this day. I mean, when you first lift, if you keep coming back, you get stronger and stronger and stronger, and pretty soon good things start to happen to you with your body. And it's been that simple in my life. It's like, you know, it's such a straight line for me, the way I would think about strength training. My first real formal training would have probably been 70. With a very good program, and then through the 70s I got, I did the basic stuff, and then in about 1975 I met Dick Nottmeyer, and he taught me the Olympic lifts, and that really changed my career. I started coaching in 79, and I haven't stopped since, and I work now at St. Mary's over there in Twickenham in the summer, and then I also teach at Columbia College here in the United States, religious studies, and then I really, the joke is I'm a mendicant strength coach. I just kind of float from place to place to place now. I work with a lot of American professional baseball. I used to work with basketball, American football, and of course track and field, which is, kind of my thing. But yeah, I mean, been around a long time. I have 14 books. I write articles for all kinds of different people, all kinds of different magazines and online magazines, and I like what I do.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I didn't realise you were doing this at Mary stuff. That's interesting. How long have you been doing that?
This has been my third year.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So I joked that when they set the job up, it was pretty specific to me. I always, joke about they were looking for a blue-eyed guy with the degrees in religious studies and weights, and who throws the discus and has grandchildren. That's kind of the joke. It seemed a little bit specific to me. Yeah.
Oh, perfect. Now, I love some of the analogies you use around training, and one of them is that training's like Mexican food. Could you just kind of explain that for us, and then kind of maybe suggest how you think rugby players or team sport athletes should how they should train, or what Mexican they should eat, so to speak?
Well, it's a hard thing to get used to, but okay. Listen, first, it's from an American comedian by the name of Jim Gaffigan, and he worked in this Mexican food place in a place called Indiana, which I don't know how to explain. Indiana is a pretty, we call it here in the United States, white bread. It's pretty vanilla state. Fairly. It's fine. But so they had a Mexican restaurant there, and the joke was, the woman would ask, "What's a tortilla?" Meat, beans, and veggies on a tortilla. Okay. What's a tostada? Meat, beans, cheese, tortilla on a tostada. Oh, what's an enchilada? Meat, beans, cheese, veggies on a tostada. And of course, the joke is on a tortilla. The joke is Mexican food's basically all the same 5 ingredients. No matter what you order, you're going to get the same thing. So when I coach athletes, we always call it Mexican food, get an athlete and they'll say, or worse, a parent, well, my son is special. And I go, oh, I have a special program for him. Push, pull, hinge, squat, loaded carries. Oh, what about his cousin? He's special too. Oh, for him, push, pull, hinge, squat, loaded carries. What about discus throwers? Oh, I have specific for them is push, pull, hinge, squat, loaded carries. It's all the same. I mean, everybody tries to make, I have this interesting little graph I'm working on. I invented it. Of course, if you've ever seen my graphs, you'll know they're all terrible. But there's this knowledge of strength and conditioning is this flat line right in the middle, and it doesn't move up at all. And then it says 1940s, 1950s, 1960s, 1970s, 1980s, 1990s, the 2000s, the 2010s. And then it says acceptance of strength and conditioning, and it starts in the 1940s at absolute zero, and then it just goes up at a 45-degree angle. And the two lines cross at about 1975 with Arnold's The Education of a Bodybuilder. So before that time, it wasn't accepted at all by the public, weightlifting and strength training, right? And then magically there was this crossover point in the mid-70s with aerobic dance and all those different things, and Nautilus and Arnold Schwarzenegger and, the Incredible Hulk here in the America, that TV show, and maybe even some of the early, Gladiator movies, and all of a sudden it became accepted. And since then, it's more and more and more, except the actual knowledge in strength and conditioning hasn't changed probably since, Tom DeLorme and Watkins and those guys back in the 1940s changed the way we use the words reps and sets. There's nothing new. I mean, you can say, oh, well, you don't understand, Dan, we're using GPS court. Yeah, okay. You found out with GPS that your athletes run around a lot in the game, and only intensely a little bit, right? Yeah, how did you know that? We knew that from the 1950s. There's nothing new under the sun. At least that's what I believe, Jamie. If you want to disagree with me, that's fine, even though I'm right. But you can disagree.
No, not at all. Not at all. So in that regard, you said push, pull, hinge, squat, loaded carry. Obviously, everyone needs to do that, but to what extent or what exercise you might use might be different. How would you approach that with a rugby player or a team sport athlete?
Well, the first thing is, the first question is usually, do they even know how to use tension? And so for me, that's why I'm a big fan of planks. It's interesting because I see the farmer walk and the goblet squat as moving planks. But I have planks I teach for the push. I have hinge planks. I have pull planks. And I use plank, because most people, when they first come to me, don't understand how to use tension in the weight room. So, you'll watch the young kid bench pressing, and their legs are all, it's like an octopus's legs. So the legs are going everywhere. The feet don't stay on the ground. They kick in the air. Their hips move here. Their hips move there. They squiggle underneath the bar. Well, it might work on that one rep, but that's not tension. Tension is full body. Everything's locked and loaded. You've spiraled every joint that can spiral. You squeeze in everything you can squeeze in, and then you drive that lift up. That's tension. If they don't understand tension, I don't care who the athlete is. I don't care what their vita, their resume, or whatever is. If they don't understand tension, that's where we begin. Because you've got to learn to master tension, so it's not only to get stronger, but it's also to be safer in the weight room. Without tension, if you're squatting 400 kilos and someone pops a balloon and you twist your head around to go look at it, you're in deep trouble. Once you twist that head around and relax the shoulders, you can do that. Man, that whole chain is about to break down. You're in deep trouble. We have got to get you. We've got to spot you and save your life, probably. Most people don't understand tension. From there, most people don't understand strength. And I have a program called Easy Strength, and I get more pushback from easy strength than anything I've ever done in my life. Basically, you do the same lifts for about 40 days. If you want to lift 5 days a week, lift 5 days a week. If you want to lift 3, that's great. It'll just take more weeks to do it. But the idea is you come in the gym and you do the same lifts. You keep the total number of reps under 10, and you just, 3 sets of 3, whatever it is, 5 sets of 2, 2 sets of 5, it doesn't matter. And you come in and you get the reps, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, move to the next exercises. Maybe 5 total exercises at most, though really probably only 3 actual lifting movements. And you just try to get as strong as you can. And the pushback I get is people then raise their hands and they'll say, well, what about agility? What about, and all these Y words will show up, flexibility, mobility, agility, it just keeps coming. What about cardio here? Well, do you want to get strong? To get strong, dedicate 2 months to getting strong. Then let's talk about all these other qualities. So I'm a big believer that I don't care who you are. We need to first teach you tension and then teach the discipline to get strong enough so that you get that wonderful hormonal cascade that big weights can give to you. I always see, you guys use kilos, so I'll just go with kilos. You'll go into the gym and see some guy doing endless sets of curls, with 15 kilos and wondering why he's never very big. Well, if you squat 300 kilos, I can almost guarantee you're going to have some size on you. You can curl 15 until your eyes bleed, and it probably have very little impact on your body. But one deadlift with 275, or one squat with 300, one clean with 180 is going to be 1,000 times better than all that nonsense, they call it muscle spinning, of all that spinning that you're doing in the weight room. And I got to tell you, frankly, that's it. Right there, those two things, those are in the cliche of big rocks, medium rocks, little rocks, and sand. Those are the two big rocks, teaching tension and teaching people to get stronger. Keep coming back in the gym. Get the time under the bar. Practice the movements so that pretty soon the load is big enough, the reps and the load and the sets combined to make your body have to respond, have to accommodate, have to change because of it. And most people skip those 2 steps. From there, I generally start doing what I call anti-rotation work. That would be one-arm overhead presses. That would be one-arm rows, especially with the TRX. That would be any kind of work like with stadium steps or hurdling. That's when I would bring in the big bags. So I have a bag that weighs 40 kilos, and I wrap my arms around it, and I walk around with it. Bear hug carries. Are you following here, Jamie?
Yeah.
And then, of course, from there, like the one-handed carries, like the suitcase carry. If we're still need more of that athlete, and I have enough time. Okay, asterisk. We got to come back to the word time. Okay. Then I would teach something like the kettlebell swing, and maybe down the line the Olympic lifts. Now, on time, if you give me 8 years, I'm going to teach you all the Olympic lifts, all the power lifts, all the kettlebell stuff. We're going to have really deep nutritional talks. We're going to experiment with all kinds of recovery things, from saunas to cold. We're going to keep trying to figure out what makes you work the best. We're going to worry about fasting. We're going to worry about tweaking protein. We're going to do all that stuff. If you give me 8 weeks, we're probably going to teach you tension and the fundamental movements. If you give me 8 days, I'll teach you tension. If you give me 8 hours, I'll give you a nice overview of everything and say good luck to you. And that's the biggest issue I think we have as strength coaches is, I'll look at these programs and I'll see that there's some of these, especially in your field in rugby. I mean, these guys have, in a year, they do 32, 40 different exercises. Well, how can you master 40 exercises? At the first peak of my discus throwing career, I only did 2 lifts, the snatch and the clean and jerk. That was it. Dan, what are you doing today? Snatching and clean and jerking. I'm going to change it up tomorrow. I'm going to clean and jerk and snatch. Well, you get pretty darn strong if that's all you do. I certainly knew how to do, pardon me, I certainly knew how to do all the other lifts, but really the biggest mistake I see in most people's training is that they just do so much, they never have a chance for true mastery. Are you following along there?
Yeah, mastery was the word I was going to use there when you said, haven't taken the time to master. I think that's something we don't really take. We try and train everything either simultaneously or in phases, which then means we're doing a lot of changing and not focusing on mastering those basic lifts. But there's loads of things kind of come out of that I want to touch on, so I'm trying to make notes as well so we can come back to these things. But you touched on loaded carries, and I know you're a big proponent of them, and that might be something that the listeners maybe aren't as au fait with, so just sort of explain the sort of results you've got with them and how you use them with your athletes.
Well, sure. I mean, how about my own personal results? The best years I ever had as an athlete in my entire career, I was age 47, 48, and 49. I hope you followed that. My best throws as a discus thrower were at age 47 and 48. And what happened to me is I was kind of oddly fortunate. I broke my left wrist really badly, Olympic lifting. It's a good story, but I won't waste your time with it. I broke it into a lot of pieces. And so I was told I'd never be able to lift again. So I just went all in on loaded carries. But the problem was I had a broken wrist. So I couldn't do anything as simple as farmer walk yet. So we put together about a 40-kilo bag, and I started carrying the bag. And I noticed as I carried the bag, my body had to provide like an inner tube. I had to squeeze my body out, and I call this anaconda strength. Well, because it's like like you're choking out, like an anaconda chokes you out. You squeeze yourself. Well, what I started to notice almost immediately is my discus, my finish was better in the discus. Well, that's interesting. And then pretty soon I started experimenting with wearing loaded backpacks. And then pretty soon I started experimenting with dragging sleds. So pretty soon, as you can see where this is heading here, is I would carry a heavy bag with a backpack dragging a sled. And all of a sudden I noticed my discus started going farther. So what a loaded carry is the carry family that'd be the farmer walks. Most people know the farmer walks. That's weights in both hands and you just walk. There's others, there's the deadlift carry. That's not as good. There's the one-handed carry family. That'd be the suitcase carries. That's where I have a weight. Instead of a farmer walk weight in two hands, I have a weight in one hand at a time. There's waiter walks where I have the weight over my head like a waiter carrying something to your table. Those are all great. And then from there, we go to the loaded carries, which you add. And honestly, I've changed on this. I'm starting to think that 15, at most 20 kilos is what you want those backpacks. Okay? It's really easy to overdo the backpack. Since we're doing the farmer walk, the backpack is just pulling you upright. So we would start off, if you don't mind, should start off with the farmer walk. There's your base. And you can, if all you did was farmer walk, that would be pretty good, okay? From there, you do the one-arm carries. Let's just say the suitcase carry and the waiter walk. Once you kind of master those, throw on a backpack and do the farmer walk. Throw on the backpack, suitcase carry, waiter walk. You're following. Then take the backpack off, add the sled, do the farmer walk with the sled, which, by the way, feels like discus throwing, and then the suitcase carry and the waiter walk, and then throw them all together, which is what we call juggernauts from the Marvel comic book here. That's where you have either farmer walks or the heavy bag with a backpack dragging the sled. That's not one. I mean, yeah, I guess you could do that in one workout. I don't know, maybe once a month. That'd be kind of a good by itself day. That'd be a hard day, but very informative. But generally, I tell people to pick one or two variations and either go for time or distance in your workout. We have found that the Fibonacci numbers are best for for loaded carries. That's 1, 2, 3, 5, or 8. So we do have a workout called the Great 8, where you take 4 to 8 different movements, and you go down and back with each movement, and then after you do the movement, you change equipment and go down and back, change equipment, go down and back, change equipment, go down. You following?
Yep.
Now, someone's going to ask how far, and that just depends. Here we probably have about 50 meters down and 50 meters back, and that's fine. If you have 20 to work with, 20 meters, that's fine. Just go heavier or just make loops or whatever. But one of the great keys, Jamie, to doing the loaded carry family is trying to so it's opposite of the weight room. You never want to repeat a workout. You really want to be fresh and different every time. Once you get through all that, you've mastered all the way up to the juggernauts, then we play with this exercise. That's when you do something with a traditional barbell or kettlebell, something as simple as this. You do a squat or a hinge movement, and then you literally throw the weight and sprint away. That's step one. Step two would be like overhead squat, front squat, deadlift. And then this time when you throw the weight, you sprint away with a sled. And that's about the top of the food chain of the loaded carry family. So the farmer walk is your foundation, your base. You might even want to say the heavy bag carry, foundation or base exercises. If you can't do those very well, gosh, don't move up. And then you do the one arm stuff, and then you add the backpack, you get good at that. You add the sled, then you combine, and then you start playing around with combining the squat hinge with the sprint or sled.
No, awesome. There's some great example sessions there. So you kind of mentioned a bit about, getting bigger or, hypertrophy for athletes. And you've got a great book called Mass Made Simple.
Right.
Don't give away all your secrets, but how do you approach, increasing muscle mass for athletes? Because not everyone, but at times, especially in contact sports, they need that kind of armor building. Well,
and I'm glad you used the word armor building. That's what I think too. There's two things. First, mass building to get larger and hypertrophy. There's very few sports that actually need it. American football, I would say, especially rugby league and rugby union. Would 7 need hypertrophy?
Not especially. I mean, it depends on the individual, but not especially, I would have thought.
So you can see, outside of guys wanting to look good on the beach to pick up women, hypertrophy is a very narrow part of athletic training. But the problem is, most people's image of weight training is hypertrophy. And this is where we run into real problems as strength coaches. Because when we're coaching, I'm trying to get the athlete to learn tension and get stronger and more explosive, so that the shot, the discus, they'll swim faster, they'll jump high, and yet you'll see the kid over there doing curls and tricep extensions, right? Mm-hmm. Now, there's nothing wrong with curls and tricep extensions, but if you're a high jumper, it's actually probably going to hurt you, because that extra mass is going to cut into that whole thing called physics. Are you following me?
Yeah.
Now, there's your preamble. If you want to build mass, it's got to be very focused, and that's all you can think about. So I like mass in about a 6-week period, mass building about 6 weeks. You can probably sneak it into 7, but you're going to have some issues. 8, 9, 10, you're not going to have the intensity. I believe that there's basically a few things you need to do to build mass for most people. First, I keep trying to figure out ways around this because it's not perfect, but high rep squatting. High rep squatting has been proved time and time again by lots and lots of people to be probably the premier way to build mass. And in my Mass Made Simple program, on the last day, we expect you to squat your body weight for 50 straight reps. Those last 20 reps, they take minutes. I mean, this set of 50, it takes a long time. Your time and attention is extraordinary. So number one, you've got to commit to squatting. The second thing is, I hope you understand the term when I use it, but if you go to my website, danjohn.net, and you type in complexes, I've got a bunch of examples of what I consider a complex. It's when you take a bar and you do it, for example, a set of 8. So you would do 8 deadlifts, 8 cleans, 8 front squats, 8 presses, which is going to hold the weight down. Put it to your back, 8 squats, 8 good mornings, throw it to the ground, you're done. So again, the time under tension is through the roof on complexes. So I think that you should squat last in these workouts. And the thing before squatting would be the complexes. And there is a need for some targeted upper body work. And to be honest, this is one of the few times I think the bench press actually is a very good exercise. If you train like this, you're probably going to only have 2 workouts a week. Now, on Mass Made Simple, I work it out to, there are weeks you have 3, but that's because the week is 7 days, which isn't perfect for my training program. So I'll talk to God about training that. But when you're training mass with me, I expect a hard workout, a full day of rest, and then what we call a tonic workout, where you just kind of come back in and you do some light work just to undo all the damage from that heavy day. After the tonic day, boom, big, heavy, hard day again, rest day, that tonic day, boom, heavy, hard day, rest, tonic. If you're doing 7 weeks on the program, you might do something like Monday is a hard day, Thursday is a hard day, and then you just figure out the rest of the week to recover. Most people, when they say they're gaining mass, I look at their programs and they're in the weight room damn too long. They're just dinking around all day. But there's some other things that help with building mass. First, will peanut butter and jelly sandwiches translate to where you live?
Yes, yeah. It'll be jam really, but they'll get it. They'll get it.
So I tell my athletes that they should keep a backpack with them on a mass building program with a loaf of bread, a jar of peanut butter, and a jar of jelly or jam, and every couple hours you eat a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Now, I couldn't believe, if you'd have talked to me 40 years ago and said, you're going to be recommending peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, I'd have slapped you across the face and I'd say, no way I wouldn't. But for gaining mass, you need now, you could also, listen, 40 years ago I'd have said, you should always carry around a dozen hard-boiled eggs. Well, here's the thing. You ain't going to eat it. You're not going to do it. You're not going to eat hard-boiled eggs every few hours. You're just not. You're not. You know why I know it? Because I did it. And it's really hard. Some people say you can get by with protein shakes, but the problem with protein shakes have their own little set of issues. I have no issue. I mean, protein shakes are fine. But okay. So that would be the second thing, is you really have to eat a lot of calories. The next thing is that you also need to be in recovery mode all the time. When you're not in the weight room on a mass program, you're recovering. Dick Nottmeyer told me a very simple thing years ago. When you're on a mass building program, always try to keep a hoodie or a sweatshirt on you. And so you never get cold when you're trying to bulk up. And I thought, that's crazy. He also said, you got to take a nap every day, and you got to get 9 to 12 hours of sleep every night. I'm like, God, I mean, because when you're trying to build mass, you don't want to be having your body have competing concepts. And then the last one is you have to tweak around a few things. And this is the part, that's why I think you should read the book. But for example, I have a week where I want you to try creatine. Now, I remember when you Brits were telling us Americans how creatine was the answer to all questions. And you slap for that still. But there are people who respond to creatine and there are people who don't. So I have you test it. And one of the weeks I have you test creatine. And if it's something that really makes a difference for you, great. There's another week where I have you drink a protein shake right before you get to bed. Go to bed. And another week where I have you drink a protein shake first thing in the morning. And then the high end, of course, and I'll be honest with you, the best mass gain thing I've ever seen is this. Very simply, you drink half a protein shake right before you go to bed. Set the alarm for about 4 hours and have it right next to you. Wake up just for a moment, long enough to drain the rest of that protein shake, go back to sleep, and right when you wake up, drink another full protein shake. So you're drinking 2 protein shakes, half, full. Does that make sense?
Yep.
And that's the nutritional tweak that I've had the best feedback from. But it's up to you and how you make that work. But it's basically hard work and then eat. So that's the secret to mass building. But you can't be doing it while doing cardiovascular conditioning, and you can't do it in season. That's the problem. For American football, it's already too late now. It's May. You might be able to get one more bulking period in now. In American football, our season starts in August. Okay. You could probably sneak it in. Yeah, maybe now. While we're talking right now, it's sneak it up on May, June. You probably could sneak one more in, but even then, I think bulking up that close to a season might have some other issues. Do you understand that?
Yeah.
You don't bulk up too close to a season.
Yeah, definitely.
Now, there are positions I'm sure that it wouldn't matter, but if you have a lot of technical things to do with your body, throwing on 20 or 10, 15 kilos kind of throws you off for a few weeks anyway.
Yeah, definitely.
If you're one of those guys that they string the wire between 2 buildings and they're high wire act, you don't want to put on 15 kilos just before you do that. You want to probably wait on that. Okay, practice.
Yeah, no, some great points there, and I agree. I think often when players they've decided they need to put on size, they tend to add bits in, and it's the opposite of that really. They need to train hard and recover and adapt. It's the old thing, you don't grow in the gym. It's the nutrition and recovery outside, isn't it?
And it really has to be an off-season commitment. It has to be something that's deep and it is. I mean, I'm asking you to train hard 2 days a week in the off season, but most people want to do something every day in the off season, and it just gets in the way of mass building.
Yeah.
And again, this is why coaching is so hard. I feel like you're constantly going in the opposite direction. Your athletes want to work really hard once the season starts, but honestly, it's too late by then. Do you follow?
Yeah.
Everyone's they want to, smoke dope and hanging on the beaches all off season and chase girls, and that's great. I got nothing wrong with that. And then when the season comes around 2 weeks ahead of time, they want to get in the best shape of their life. Well, you can't work that way. You got to have. It's almost opposite. So watch what most people do. When they do the opposite, you should be fine. Yeah.
Great advice. Now you've touched on the importance of consistency, and how do you approach that? How do you help athletes improve their consistency?
Oh, let's slide in a slightly different direction. So what I tell my athletes is, and it's real simple. Do my best to, it's in my book now. Let me summarize the best I can. So anything that's not part of your goal, any decision matrix you have to make that's not part of your goal, do you want a cheese sandwich or do you want a bologna sandwich? The answers are yes, no. We call those shark habits. One bite and they're gone. And I try to get my athletes to never let things build up in their decision processes. So you cannot let a bunch of unimportant things. Okay, that's not right. They are important. Like I always use example of a wedding. Someone invites me to a wedding. I answer, yes, I'm going. No, I'm not, immediately. And then I go buy them a present online instantly. So it's out of my head. So it's an important thing for this couple to get married, and that's great. I'm behind it 100%. But I want that clutter out of my head. You follow?
Yeah.
So if you have athletes or students, I tell them to look at their education. Now I actually think this as shark habits. If you get assigned a paper, do the paper as soon as you possibly can. Don't wait until the night before. Get it out of your head. If the teacher has you read something, don't leave class. Read it right then in class. If you have an hour break after class, do that assignment right then, right there. Get it out of your skull. Unimportant things in life, or when you should gas up or not, or what vehicle you should have, or all these things that just, when you get a bill, pay it, send it in. When you get an email, answer it. When you get a phone call, say hello. Are you going to be there tonight? Yes, no. Just get all that stuff out of your head. Are you with me then?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. But things that are important, I tell them you should make pirate maps. This comes from Pat Flynn. And a pirate map is this. If you go to St. John's Island, you find the white coconut tree, you take 7 paces to the west, and you dig down, and there's the buried treasure. You need to have, as an athlete, a daily pirate map. So, for example, let me give you mine real quick, okay? So, and the reason I know it, because I have it taped to my computer, and I have it taped to a couple walls, including my gym. All right. My day starts the night before. 1. So number 1 is this. Honor my sleep ritual, which means about an hour before I go to bed, I take my supplements, I write my to-do list for the next day. You see where all this is heading, right? I try to calm down as best as I can. I try to watch something. If I'm going to watch TV, it has to be funny, okay? It can't be murder and death, When I wake up in the morning, 2, I wake up and I'm grateful for something. The reason you want to be grateful for something, if you're not grateful, you can't think of anything to be grateful for. That tells you that you're behind in recovery. So one interesting thing too, JD, just my own case, I don't use alarm clocks. I set the coffee a half an hour before I think I need to be up. So I wake up literally to the smell of coffee. When I smell coffee, my brain goes, do, 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 do. It's time to wake up, Danny. And I wake up, okay? And then I try to be grateful for something. I meditate for 1 minute every day on something that's an app called 1 Moment Meditation. It's very inexpensive, and every day I meditate for a minute. Now, I also have other meditation programs that go for 15, 30, and 45 minutes. By the way, when I meditate for 45 minutes, it sort of looks like I'm napping because that's what I'm doing. And then so sleep ritual, wake up and be grateful, 1 minute meditation. Nutritionally, my goal is to eat 10 different, actually it's 8, but I always tell myself it's 10. My goal is to eat 10 different vegetables every day. So when I'm making a meal, I'm searching. Now, I didn't say 10 servings, by the way. God, you wouldn't have time to do anything else, man. But I try to eat 10 different vegetables every day, right? So that's my goal. So when I go out to breakfast, I tend to get the vegetarian omelet. I tend to get a salad with a lot of vegetables. I tend to get the vegetable soup. Some of your listeners may have ever had dinner with me. Very often I'll order 2 bowls of soup because if I like the soup, I'll eat another bowl. And it looks weird at first, and the waiter thinks you're crazy, except, I'm almost 61 and I'm still stronger, and, I can throw really far still. And it's like, and people say, how do you do it? I go, I ordered 2 bowls of vegetable soup. Okay. And then the final thing on that little list is very simple. It says that I'll do 1 rucking workout per week. Rucking, that's loaded. It's a backpack, about a 15-kilo backpack, and I go for I'd probably go for an hour walk, okay, with the loaded backpack. Jogging breaks me apart, so this is like running. I do 2 hypertrophy workouts a week. I do 1 fully tonic workout a week where I just do mobility work. It's called original strength. And then I train. Let me just look at hold on just a second. I know I'm skipping something. I don't want to. Oh, what an idiot. And I do easy strength. I forgot my own program. So basically, about 3 or 4 or 5 days a week, I do Tim Anderson's original strength, which is very basic mobility movements based on crawling and rolling. I do easy strength, and then I do that. If you don't mind linking my 30-30 workouts, just type in Dan John 30/30, and you'll get 2 articles on those workouts. Plus, and it'll have the template for what I do every day.
Yeah, of course.
What I do with my athletes is I sit them down, and I insist that they have a pirate nap. And so, what's your pirate nap? What's your sleep ritual? When are you going to have time to yourself? What are you going to do? I did this talk the other day to in America it's called high school. It's up to students about age 13 to 17. What would you call that, Jamie?
High school, I guess, or secondary school, maybe.
Well, in England, is it secondary school?
Yeah.
Okay, because university is adults, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, some in the Catholic, some places they call them colleges, or is that just Ireland?
Not sure.
Oh, okay. So I was giving this talk to this high school, and I think I just forgot what I was about to say. What was I about to say?
About pirate maps?
Yeah, I'm talking about pirate maps. I'm sure it was a brilliant point, but it'll come back to me in just a second. And I'm trying to tell them the importance of pirate maps, and it's hard because when you first think about something like this, but if you want to be a doctor, I can put together a pirate map for you. I'm serious. You're going to need sleep. You're going to need to worry about nutrition. You're going to need to worry about some time alone every day, and you're going to have to put in time every day at basic study. Well, so what I would suggest for my athlete, this decluttering process for your rugby players, would you agree they need a sleep ritual? Yes?
Yeah.
Do they need to eat vegetables and protein? Yes. Do they need to lift and train their system? Oh, I knew what I was going to tell you. So when I was in college, my coach, Ralph Mon, told me that the secret to throwing the discus far is lifting weights 3 days a week, throwing the discus 4 days a week for the next 8 years. So I did the math on this, Jamie, and I realized that Coach Mon said the secret to throwing the discus far is 1,644 throwing sessions. That's a lot of throwing, man. Throwing sessions.
Yeah. So,
you throw between 20 and 100 throws in a session. That's a lot of throws. And yet most people think that, it's just like you magically, kind of Harry Potter it with Ngare Wingalosa, and all of a sudden you throw the discus far. So to me, I try to get my athletes, and I work with them. You need about 5. You probably in rugby would need up to 8 because it's a lot more complex than discus throwing. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah.
So you might need up to 8 things, and it's a daily kind of thing. Every day they have to worry about the sleep ritual. Every day they have to work about making sure water's their primary liquid, protein, veggies. They're going to have some kind of strength component, and they're also going to have some kind of technical component. Now, you would not want to do something like this where you say, I want you to practice 27 scrums every day, because that's not correct. It has to be a little bit open-ended. But the idea is, if you stick to that pirate map as an athlete, and every athlete on the team sticks to the pirate map, you don't have to worry very much downstream about you being pretty good. You're going to be good. I tell trainers this, people who work with normal population. If your client slept 9 hours every day, ate protein and veggies at every meal, only drank water, and exercised 3 days a week with you, and then went for walks every morning, how good would they be in 2 years? Well, universally, all their dreams would come true. All of them. But it's that 2 years part that gets people.
Yeah.
And so was that good?
Definitely, yeah.
So for me, it's the way I see things a little different. So we're shark habits, anything that's not goal. And then we pirate map what we want, who we want to be when we grow up.
Yeah. No, I remember reading an article about Steve Jobs, I think it was, and saying how he wore the same clothes every day. So he's not worried about that. He can, use all that energy to focus on, building his business and things like that. So it's a really interesting point how you kind of get rid of those distractions and focus on the things that over the long run will, add up to, big results.
I write 2 or 3 books a year, and people ask me, how do you write 2 or 3 books a year? And then in fact, if you look at the picture, I think, do you have a picture of me up in the corner?
Yep.
Somewhere?
Yep.
You see that shirt?
Yep.
Yeah, I have 16 pairs of that shirt. The exact same shirt. That's not a joke.
You're the Steve Jobs of strength and conditioning.
Well, people say, Darren, how do you write 2 or 3 books a year? And I always respond first, I tug the shirt and I say, I own 16 of these shirts. And they go, well, so how do you have a writing? No, I have 16 of these shirts. I already have dinner laid out for tonight. I'm here in Utah, so I already know exactly what I'm cooking for dinner, and I've already chopped the vegetables for the dinner tonight. Now, I'm not going to cook it for another 2.5 hours, but it's already sitting out there. So when I'm talking to you, I'm 100% with you right now. I'm not anyplace else right now. It's all done. I get a phone call, I answer it, and I deal with it. It's out of my head, and it stays out of my head. So that allows me to be able to write and do some other things a lot better.
Yeah, no, great advice there, great advice. This is a question we ask all the guests on the podcast, and it's, what do you think is the biggest mistake athletes make when it comes to strength and conditioning?
Hypertrophy.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think we've already kind of touched on it a bit, but yeah.
Say it enough. So there's a phrase, in religious studies, we have a phrase called steno-intensive symbols. A steno symbol is a concept that only has one meaning. The example I always use this, I'm sitting at my desk right now. So you and me are on a beach, okay? We're in Cancun, we're on a beach, and this really, really attractive girl walks past, and I whisper to you, she is so desk. You'll go, I'm sorry? She's desk. And you'll actually not understand what I just said, because desk means desk, right? Here in the States, we have a word called bad. Now, the word bad can mean good or bad, depending on how you use it in a sentence. You follow?
Yeah.
So bad is a tensive symbol. It depends on how you use it. Well, okay, all fine and dandy and good. Well, when I say strength training, to most people, they have a steno symbol, and that means bodybuilding.
Yeah.
Well, that's not what I'm talking about. Very few athletes, almost none. You can get, if you want to be huge, do the power lifts and the Olympic lifts. If every athlete you had snatched 135K, cleaned 170, 175K, benched 200, squatted 250, and deadlifted 300, would they all be pretty good sized?
Mm-hmm.
They wouldn't need curls and tricep extensions. You follow?
Yeah.
The number one problem is when we talk about lifting, most people hear, females, I never ever program ab work or flexibility work because I know they'll do it. And for males, I never program bench press, curls, triceps because I know they'll do it without me even saying so.
Yeah.
If they just vomited on the floor, I'll turn my back and the boys will be doing curls. So hypertrophy.
Yeah, it's a very common answer to that question. Now, you touched on kind of ways to do loaded carries, like going into sprints. I think you've written about is that a variation of your Litvinov sprints that you've spoken about? Just want to touch on kind of ways you you might suggest doing conditioning for rugby players where it's not just running, there's, physical element to the game as well.
Oh, I think for rugby, see, I started that Litvinov family to help a specific military problem. But what I quickly learned was two funny things. First, I threw the discus farther doing Litvinovs. Wow. And remember, if the discus goes farther, if the shot put goes farther, if you jump higher, you jump longer, you're right. So so we started training, I started training throwers with these. And then with American football, if I could go back now, we would strength train every football practice with the Litvinov family. We would be walking around carrying, in America, we have they're called tackling dummies. They weigh about 40 kilos. They can get bigger. God, they can get much bigger. But, 40, 50 kilos. I would have a circuit of athletes doing those bear hug carries with those big bags, and then a practice, a technical practice, a technical practice, a technical practice. And the next part would be doing goblet squats followed by sprints, or something else followed by sprints, or sled pulls as conditioning and technical area. I think the bulk of the strength and conditioning I can do for American football and rugby would be great to do on the field of play during practice. I got to tell you, those bear hug carries and those Litvinovs and Litva sleds, they're game changers, man. Game-changing movements.
Yeah. And you've also written a lot about hill sprints. How have you used those with your athletes?
Well, I love hill sprints, but what's the problem with hill sprints, Jay?
Need a hill?
From England, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I tell you, English education's pretty good. Exactly. If you don't have a hill. So I live in a place called Utah. We had where I live isn't far from where we had the 2002 Winter Olympics. So it's pretty easy for me to find hills.
Yeah.
Okay. If you don't have hills, do sleds. Here's an interesting exercise for you. I don't know how for training the guys. If you got issues with knees at all, do farmer walks backwards with sleds or backwards up hills.
Okay. Yeah.
That little horseshoe muscle around the knees, within about 10 paces, you'll start screaming. We have this one little workout we do. Well, remember the Great Eight I referenced earlier?
Yeah.
So I'm holding at arm's length a handle, and the handle is connected to a sled. So go 50 meters walking backwards, and it doesn't have to be heavy. It doesn't have to be heavy. So you go 50 meters, you stop, and you do that a total of 8 times. Backward sled pulls. Oh, and the thing is, it's just all in your quads, and then maybe some upper back stuff. But you'll be vomitous in how. I don't know what is it. I guess it's the lactic acid or whatever. But you can keep going. That's the problem. And the nice thing is that whole area around your knees gets not only built up, but you don't have any of the problems with that thing called patella tracking. The leg extension is a good exercise, but it makes you track too much on you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's a good exercise, but if you do it too much, it can actually be bad for the knees. You don't have that issue with these backward sled pulls. That'd be something to throw into your rugby training if you have knee issues.
Yeah.
That's my answer for knee issues is that. And my answer for shoulder injuries is to teach your athletes how to tumble, how to do shoulder rolls, how to do backward rolls, how to do cartwheels. Because once you learn how to fall, the bulk of your injuries disappear in the shoulder area.
Yeah, no, some great advice there with some common injuries in rugby. This is another question we ask all the guests on the podcast. What advice would you give to an upcoming strength coach?
Run! Go find something good to do. No. Oh, okay. Let me tell you. Okay, let me tell you 3 quick things. Okay, and the thing I see most young guys. Jamie, how old are you?
33.
33. Alexander the Great conquered the known world. Jesus saved humanity. And what have you done today? Okay, that's my standard age 33 joke. So one of the things you probably notice it yourself is that young strength coaches tend to grab onto only one branch of the tree, and they hold on to that branch as tight as they can. So they're the kettlebell guy, they're the Olympic lift guy, they're the power lift guy. So if I am a athlete in a wheelchair, you recommend the snatch and clean and jerk. If I have one arm, it's bench press, squat, and deadlift. The first thing you need to do as a young strength coach is make sure you know the basics of body weight, Olympic lifting, power lifting, yes, kettlebells, yes, dumbbells, yes, TRX. So know the basics of almost every tool in the weight room, and even machines. And that might take you one day, and the Olympic lifts might take you a couple of months, but it's worth it. You got to know at some level, you've got to understand nutrition. You're not a nutritionist, but you got to be able to talk to your athletes when they ask questions, and they always ask questions about nutrition. You got to have some understanding of recovery. And the final thing on this base is it would be nice. I always tell anybody who asks me advice who's young, I think as a child, and 13, 14, 15, whatever, you should play an individual sport, play a team sport, and somehow speak before a crowd of your peers. That could either be in church, it could be in debate, it could be in a play. You guys have that guy Shakespeare. Is he still alive? He hasn't done anything in a long time. I was just wondering if he's but if you're in a play or you have to sing in a choir, and one of the things that happens with a lot of young strength coaches is all they know is rugby. And what you need to do is rugby is great, but go spend time with the track and field coaches, the athletic coaches, because those guys will tell you things and they'll kind of laugh at some of the stuff you do because you do too much. And if you're a track and field coach and you sit down with the rugby guy, you might realize things about your sport that you just don't know. You follow?
Yeah.
And then the second layer is you got to kind of figure out. The second layer is then when you figure out the why. So layer one is just, you got to know the stuff. Layer two is the why. That's the connecting the dots kind of thing. But the real one is the third layer, and I call it what works. If you want to make it, you got to find what works and be disciplined enough to stick with what works. If I've had any success as a coach or an athlete, I've had this great ability to. I experiment more than almost anybody I know, but when I find something that works, I wrap my arms around it. We put it up on the walls. We remind each other about it daily, hourly. This is in America. There's a phrase: "The girl who brought you to the dance with the girl who brought you." Okay, you always dance with the girl who brought you to the dance. So for me, Olympic lifts, kettlebells, and loaded carries are in every program I have. Having said that, if you don't know the Olympic lifts, we regress it slightly. If you can't do this kettlebell movement, we regress it. And then we regress, loaded carries down. But those are the girls who brought me to the dance. I'm dancing with those guys. Makes sense to you?
Yeah, definitely. You touched on there with track and field, obviously coaches, they, it's so easy for them to kind of see, like you said, if you've done something and it increases your discus throw, then that works and you can stick with it. Whereas it's a bit more difficult in kind of team sports because, you can make brilliant results but not know it works. So it's really good to sort of work with those coaches and see what's worked. And yeah, just great points there all around, really. I want to ask a few more questions, and you mentioned kettlebells, and obviously you're a big proponent of them. So how have you used them, and how have you found them what sort of results have you found with them? I think you've said in the past you've had big improvements on your throwing for using them.
My personal story, yes, especially in the javelin throw. But what I like about kettlebells, and I've always liked about kettlebells, is it's very easy to bring them out to the field. So I used to have this pickup truck that I would load with a barbell and plates, and I would drive it out to practice and unpack it, and then we would do like overhead squats or cleans or whatever on the field. The nice thing about kettlebells is they're so much easier to bring out on the field to play. So we'll do, as throwers, we'll throw, do some clean and press, we'll do another drill, do some snatches, do another drill. So that's the thing I like about kettlebells the most. Originally, I liked it better when there was only 3 sizes. Now there's a million. I think it actually cut in to the value as a coach, because now, again, the biggest problem you have as a coach is that you always have too many choices. And that's what kills you as a coach. Choice. I can do this, I can do that, I can do this, I can do that. And my job as a coach is to shut up. This is what we're doing. And that's it. That's what decision means. Decision, to kill, cut, decide, get it done, move on. I like kettlebells. The swing and the snatch, the kettlebell swing and the kettlebell snatch are very interesting exercises to build up that ballistic hinge quickly, simply. You don't have to teach all the other stuff you have to do with the Olympic lifts, like the wrist, and you don't have to teach the wrists and elbows as much, and you can really focus on the big boom. So that to me was very valuable. Learning the swing by itself was worth all the kettlebell stuff I went through. The swing by itself, yeah.
Yeah. Just sort of pick your brains about the snatch. Obviously, it's quicker and easier to learn the swing, and it's a good movement itself. But moving on to the snatch, how do you find, or how do you go about coaching where the bell sort of flips over, and so you're not having people break their wrists and things like that?
Well, the biggest problem most people have is they have no concept of how to do the snatch. If you're banging your wrist, your concept is at fault, okay? So really, what I would recommend, if that's what's happening, practice swings first and practice waiter walks. So you're working on the boom of the swing, and then the waiter walk is how you catch it. But after you swing, there's that little tiny elbow push on the kettlebell snatch, little tiny, where it kind of sort of changes directions. So big hard swing, bam, and then I do a little tiny elbow. But here's the key to saving your wrists: you stab the bell to the ceiling. You don't let it flop over. Okay, my hand is open right now, like I'm stabbing, I'm trying to choke, kill you I'm stabbing your throat with my fingers. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
I'm stabbing the ceiling. So swing, stab, swing, stab. And if you do it correctly, the bell naturally floats and never hits your wrist. If it's hitting your wrist, you're doing too much elbow and wrist nonsense. It should be swing, stab, swing, stab. I'm doing an RKC there in London in early June. Come by. If this doesn't make sense, folks, just come by and I'll teach you in a few minutes, okay?
Cool, thanks for that. Well, lastly, Dan, where can people learn more about you? You've already mentioned danjohn.net. Is there anywhere else you're writing articles at the moment?
Well, all over, but danjohn.net is fine. Or Facebook is kind of dying hard in about the last 2 months. But I'm Daniel John on Facebook, and then I also have a Dan John Strength Coach on Facebook. But I'm watching that thing it's like a flower on a hot sunny day. It's just withering. But Instagram is DJ84123. But really, just Dan. And if you want to email me, dan@danjohn.net. And you know I answer emails right back, right?
Yeah.
Every time, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I take it because answering emails is a shark habit, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Was my yes? Yeah. You said, let's do it. And I said yes. And boom, here we are. Okay.
Yeah, awesome. And, thank you so much for that, Dan. Really appreciate your time. And yeah, tons of great information for the listeners. Really appreciate that. And all the best, everything. And yeah, hopefully catch you in June when you're over in the UK. And all the best with everything.
Well, thank you. I thought this was delightful. And if you want to have a follow-up anytime, I think I'm easy to work with, okay?
Oh, definitely. No, I'd love to do that. Yeah,
All right.
I feel like we'll probably talk for another hour, but...
I'd love to. We'll talk soon, though, okay?
Yeah. Cheers, Dan. Thanks very much. All the best.
Bye-bye.
So there you go. Definitely a very experienced coach, and I'm sure you've got tons that you can, literally apply to your training now. Those loaded carries, something great to play with now over the off season. So thank you, Dan, for your time, and he sounds keen to come on again, so it'd be great to chat further. In the meantime, guys, please subscribe to us on SoundCloud, Stitcher, TuneIn, or iTunes, and give us a 5-star review. And of course, check us out at rugbyrenegade.com.
Thanks for listening to the Rugby Renegade Podcast. For more quality rugby strength and conditioning information, check us out at rugbyrenegade.com. Rugby Renegade, building machines.